calorie restriction is one of the primary drivers of
Yes.
food noise.
Yes.
And the piece about crossing that line of when it becomes a health challenge, I think comes down to, A, is it overriding hunger? So are we paying attention to that voice versus our physical hunger cues? Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, welcome back to another episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm Jenn Trepeck, your host and health coach, here with you every week for Wellness Without the Weirdness. And joining me today is another new voice for you. My colleague and friend Donna is here. Donna, welcome to this side of Salad with a Side of Fries.
Thank you, Jen. I am so excited to be here.
Yeah, so we'll fill everybody in. Recently, we were at a conference together in Miami. You want to tell everybody what you said to me?
Yeah, I basically coerced her to let me be on this podcast at least 5 times. I want to be on your podcast. I want to be on your podcast.
I promised you.
And you did, and here we are.
Exactly. I deliver when I make a promise. So today, we're going to talk about food noise. And this comes up a lot. Most recently, we talked about it in our Q&A episode from the Happy Healthy Hub. And I mentioned then that we would do an episode about it. So here we are, because again, I keep my promises.
Always good thing.
Yep. Donna, what do you think? Like when you hear the word food noise, what'd you think when I was like, this is what we're talking about?
You know, I have heard the term and I actually had to Google it because I keep hearing it, but I didn't really know what it was referring to. And so when I saw what it was referring to, I'm like, oh, I see. They just gave a very old concept a new name.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. So we'll talk about, we'll define it for everybody. We'll go through all the things. Super quick, let's tell our members what they're getting, and then we'll get into it. There's so much to discuss. So for the Happy Healthy Hub members, your recipe this week is for crunchy Thai kale salad. And I have to tell you, this one has so much flavor. Like, you're going to love the dressing. It's not difficult to make, but it's probably going to require a grocery run. It's worth it though. So if you want this recipe, be sure you're a member of the Happy Healthy Hub. You'll go to asaladwithasideoffries.com/membership for just $12 a month. Or by the way, you can prepay the whole year and get 2 months free. You get weekly recipes, curated articles, discounts from me and our partners, expert interview episodes in full video, including some behind-the-scenes content, access to the community board where we can interact, ask and answer questions, and so much more. So this really is the next best thing to working with me in my 12-week signature coaching program. If you're ready to level up your health and support this podcast at the same time so we can keep going and doing this with you every week, go to asaladwithasideoffries.com/membership or click the link in the episode notes below. From there, you'll click subscribe now, follow the prompts to enter your payment info, create your login to access the hub and all of your benefits. And again, you'll get this week's recipe for the crunchy Thai kale salad. So, Donna, as I said, I think let's start with what food noise is. One of the questions that also comes up is whether it's normal. We'll talk about what causes it. And then, of course, we'll talk about what we can do about it, because you're not doomed. Been there. I promise you, it's possible to get rid of it. So I used to talk about food noise as that constant running dialogue, which really wasn't a dialogue, it was a diatribe, in my head, like that constant chatter, talking to me, thinking about food, what to eat, what not to eat, when am I eating, beating myself up over something I did eat, talking myself into eating something I wanted to, in theory wanted to eat, but didn't really want in the moment. And that's what I always experienced it as. Now that it's become sort of like this topic or thing that people talk about, it has a more succinct definition of persistent chatter, like a constant mental conversation about food. Tufts University said food noise generally refers to constant, intrusive thoughts about food, what to eat, when to eat, cravings, or guilt, even when someone isn't physically hungry.
Which is a really good definition for what it is. And, growing up, I've always had to battle my weight. I've always had food issues. I've always felt like I'm a 500-pound person and not a 500-pound body. But one of the things I think that started some of this is in the morning, my mom would wake us up for school. And the first thing she'd say is, "What do you want for dinner?" Well,
Yep.
I haven't even woken up yet. How do I know what I want for dinner? But it got you on this track of thinking about food and what am I going to eat? What do I feel like? What do I want? When should I eat it? I'm not hungry. And we've all become a little too obsessed with food, especially when you are trying to, so to speak, lose weight because we all, want to be ridiculously thin or not, or even not. So I think for a lot of people, it's this constant battle of, well, I know I need to eat something, but what do I eat? And there's too many choices, good and bad out there. And I think a lot of people have gotten themselves wrapped up into this constant thought of food. And I think it's because we're not preparing for the day.
Well, I think there's a lot to that. Yeah. And we'll come to the causes in a second. But something you said in there is spot on because there is a difference between, I think, considering what might be for dinner and having a constant disruptive tug of war struggle of the mental conversation. So think about it, again, like where is that line of, I don't like the word normal, but one of the questions, right? Is it normal? I think there are pieces of it where it's not intrusive. It doesn't distract from the rest of your day. Like you could consider, okay, I'm eating lunch right now. I'm having this, so I maybe don't want that for dinner. Or I know I'm having salmon for dinner. I don't want that at lunch.
Right.
Versus something that really becomes more all-consuming, more distracting, more, like, I think you use the word battle, right? More back and forth, push and pull kind of conversation.
Yeah. Again, I think it goes to, well, this whole idea of
what we should be eating.
What we should be eating,
Yes.
and then what we shouldn't be eating. And am I at work and can I eat this? And am I going to be able to eat lunch? Am I going to have time? Am I not going to have time?
Yep.
We start to overthink, almost like if I don't get this at this time, or if I don't have time, am I going to starve? Or like you just said, if I'm going to have this for lunch, well, wait, am I having lunch at 3:00? And then, I'm not going to be hungry for dinner at 6, but I don't really want to eat at 8. I mean, you really do become so overly consumed.
Yes.
And I don't know that we are born like this, or are we promoting it almost?
I think it's very much a learned behavior and a learned
yes,
conversation.
I agree with you. Yes.
And when I tell my story, I talk about how the 12-week curriculum that you and I both work with, to me, it completely changed my life and is the only thing that allowed me to say I kicked my food issues.
Yes.
And when I use the word food issues, it was a lot of the food noise.
Yes.
It was feeling like anytime I ate something, it was like the energy behind it was like it was the last time I was ever going to eat that thing in my life. You laugh because you know, and like I think that's also connected to the food noise, right? Like it's this almost obsessive food-related thinking. And one of the other questions of, is it normal? Okay, so I think common versus normal. I don't like the word normal. I think it is incredibly common. And we'll talk about the sources and all of that stuff, but like why we get there. The piece where, again, I think it crosses a line between awareness or planning and a more significant health challenge.
Yes. Well, and I also, I am a few years older than you are, Jen. Just a couple.
No one
She
would
could be
know.
my daughter. But growing up in the world that I grew up in was, in order to lose weight, you had to, eat less and exercise more.
Exactly.
Less calories in, more expansion of energy.
Exactly.
And that made you think like, I'm not supposed to eat. So
Right.
in thinking like, well, I'm not supposed to eat, or I have to have this little bit, it made your brain crave these foods even more because you were not eating. It's almost like you want what you can't have.
Right.
It's
Well, and we'll talk about calorie restriction is one of the primary drivers of
yes,
food noise.
yes.
And the piece about crossing that line of when it becomes a health challenge, I think comes down to is it overriding hunger? So are we paying attention to that voice versus our physical hunger cues? Whether that's overeating or undereating, as we were just saying, even emotional eating. Like, I also, controversial opinion, I don't think emotional eating is the worst thing on the planet. I think it can cross a line and become a bigger challenge, but there are pieces to that. There's a spectrum to that. And so I think there is also a spectrum with the food noise. So if it's constant, even when you're doing other activities, if it's always feeling like guilt or shame after eating, if there's an energy like I was describing of like when we do eat something, it's almost like a ravenous, like this is the last time I'm ever going to eat something. I think the energy behind it can be the piece that pushes it over the line. And so just our awareness of where we might fall on that spectrum is a really powerful place to start, because especially as we then look at options for addressing it, which we'll do in a minute, the options available to you, the options that may be most powerful for you are likely different depending on where on the spectrum you are. And so starting with understanding, is this in a place where it's concerning? Is it increasing and maybe progressing to that? Do I see that in my kids? Do I see that in the people around me? There's so many elements to this because, like you said, a lot of it we've learned from the conversations that we're seeing from our parents, from our friends, from social media, from all of these other places and all of these influences.
It is learned behavior. A lot of it is learned behavior, and it's also habits.
Yes.
We've created some really bad habits by creating other really bad habits.
Right.
And it all flows into it. So then it's that piece of the puzzle to change that habit.
Right. So I believe, and it goes back to what we were saying before, the primary driver of food noise is restriction and rules.
Yes.
In my book, Uncomplicating Wellness, I talk about it as living life based on rules rather than habits. And so if we can recognize that that's sort of the cause and then identify the triggers. So the cause is typically that restriction. And we can talk about some of the biochemical pieces of that because it is very biochemical. It's not willpower. It's not moral, whatever. And then the triggers are the things in the moment that spark that dialogue. So the trigger could be that emotional piece. The trigger could be seeing something on social media. The trigger could be seeing an ad for a food that you love. But then there's that voice that says, you shouldn't, my least favorite word on the planet, should, right? Shouldn't eat that. And then that dialogue starts. It could be boredom, stress, lack of sleep, all of those pieces. Dieting 1,000% is that underlying piece. And then something happens that sort of turns that volume switch up. Does that make sense? A sort of difference between like cause and trigger?
Yeah, it does. And I also think, our brains as human beings are wired for entertainment and enjoyment.
Yes.
And most of us enjoy eating. It's social and we like food and it's fun. We like to go out, we like to meet. But as you're out And these choices of what, again, you go back to, oh, I shouldn't eat that, but I'm out. Oh, I want to eat that. And then you start having these debates with yourself. And before you even know it, like before you've even gone out, you're already fighting with yourself because you know what's on the menu. And you're like, all right, am I going to allow myself to have this? Or am I going to pick the better choice and enjoy that? Can I enjoy that as much? And I think that's where it comes from. It's like, oh, but I really want that pasta carbonara with all that cream. But I know it's going to hurt my belly. So no, I'm not going to eat it. But am I going to enjoy the salmon and the veggies just as much?
Yes. Yeah. And I think, again, it's because there's shame and guilt around choosing.
There absolutely is.
The food that's, I guess, maybe a little more indulgent in this moment.
Yeah.
So thinking about the physiological piece, because it is not, as we said, it's not willpower, it's not moral, it's not all of these things. It's this learned conversation that then has this physiological component to it that then makes it constant and pushes it over that line. So we talk about all the time the hormones connected to hunger and satiety. So ghrelin is the hungry hormone. Leptin is the satiety hormone. Right. And then we also know now more, everybody's aware of GLP-1. There's also PYY and CCK, but other hormones that promote satiety after meals. And the piece that I think is so important there is to recognize that it is physiological. It's biochemical. There's real chemistry happening there. The same thing happens with our blood sugar and insulin. So when our blood sugar is low, the body craves fast fuel. The brain says, I need fuel as quickly as possible. What is that? Well, higher glycemic carbohydrates give us that fast fuel, that fuel as quickly as possible, right? Then we can end up on this blood sugar roller coaster, which then exacerbates and feels like we just ate. How are we hungry again? Again, that blood sugar roller coaster can amplify the volume and frequency of that inner chatter.
Sure. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that, because that's the other thing. If you are needing a quick, fast energy boost or that to bring up your sugar, what are you grabbing for? Whatever's the easiest. It's the pretzels. It's the potato chips. It's a piece of candy. It's all those things that are so easy and quick that are going to spike our glucose levels, but then they're also going to crash. And you're going to keep craving those things.
Yeah. And to your point before on our brain wired for the entertainment, so we can connect that to dopamine, right? To these rewards, to the brain seeking stimulant, dopamine, motivation, right? All of those pieces fall into place. Again, it's so physiological. And then we also add the stress component. So we also know stress is physiological. The HPAG axis, really, right? So the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals, and gonads, right? This whole system that's connected to stress and impacted by stress, which also connects to the blood sugar piece, which also connects to the dopamine piece, which also connects to the ghrelin and the leptin, right? So all of these physiological elements are at play. So when we think about what's going on, part of also what I think makes food noise louder is feeling like there's something wrong with us that it's happening.
That's very true. And in a respect, there kind of is something wrong, but most people are not aware of the physiological things that are happening in the body that are controlling these hormones. And so therefore, they just think it's all emotional.
Right.
And it isn't. It really isn't. I talk to people about their adrenal glands a lot and how they're fatigued because their cortisol levels are so high all the time. And that stress, cortisol stress. And then we get that belly fat and they're just like, I never even heard of an adrenal gland. I don't know what it is.
Right.
And that, that's our job as the educator to teach people that this is what physiologically is probably happening. And it's throwing off all these hormones. So your ghrelin and your leptin are
right.
backwards and nothing's working right.
Exactly. Like I always used to describe it, it feels like you're climbing Mount Everest naked and barefoot, and everyone around you is like, climb. What's wrong with you? Go. Like, just climb. And you're like, are you kidding me? Like, I have nothing, you know? That to me was the feeling of when all of this stuff was going on, everything was sort of dysregulated. And that conversation and that mental expectation of the shoulds. So because so much of this is physiological, it also means there are so many options for addressing it.
Yes, exactly.
So I want to shift into that after we highlight our partner for this episode. One reader described Uncomplicating Wellness as refreshing, honest, and deeply human. Another said it reminded them that they are the expert of their own body. And I have to say, that might be my favorite part. Hearing from people who have read it, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. I heard it makes a great gift.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And the truth is, it's all because somewhere along the way, wellness became about outsourcing our trust. We outsource it to the influencers, to the trends, to the rigid rules, to the one-size-fits-all plans or diets. This book helps you take that back. It gives you tools, context, and proper clarity without guilt, without extremes, without pretending like there's only one right, in air quotes, way to be well. So if you want wellness to make sense again and feel like it belongs to you, text the word book, BOOK, to 833-801-0500. We'll send you a link so you can learn more. Again, text the word book, BOOK, to 833-801-0500. Okay, so how do we stop the food noise? How do we stop the mental chatter? And I like to think about these kind of in those same categories as what we talked about. So if we want to address the leptin and ghrelin piece, if we want to address the GLP-1 pieces, the stress pieces, the dopamine pieces, right? So we can think about it in terms of saying, okay, we have to address that the body needs energy, the metabolism needs fuel, the brain is craving reward, and our nervous system is simply trying to handle our modern lives. So if we think about it in those four categories, addressing each of those pieces can in turn remove the food noise. So part of, and in my head, it's connecting to the book thing because I talk about, the part of the subtitle of the book is about the noise. And so if we have a plan for all four of those pieces, if we are moving in the direction and have habits around all of those pieces, it allows us to turn down all of that external information that becomes the voice of the shoulds and the rules.
And I think, too, it's important for people to understand that when you are trying to put all of this together, it's going to take time and it's going to take consistency. It's not going to happen overnight. And I've worked with people that they want to change everything they do in a week, and you can't. So you start with one thing at a time and you change that. So if you do little bits, it will amount to a big change. And that's the other thing. It's like, stop beating yourself up. That's number one.
Right. And easier said than done.
Much easier said than done.
And so what does it look like? Let's go through what some of those habits and things are so that we can move in that direction. So the first piece, it's the stuff that we talk about all the time. It's quality nutrition, balancing our food choices. So protein, fiber, quality fat, thinking about those micronutrients also, right? So eating variety, eating lots of different colors to get all of those micronutrients too. So we're eating quality nutrition, tackling all the nutrients, and eating regularly.
Yes.
Because remember, our objective is balancing blood sugar to avoid that roller coaster, because that roller coaster turns up the volume on that dialogue. We talk a lot about processed packaged foods, right? Even the ones that are marketed to us as healthy. The more processed foods we have, the more sugar-laden foods we have, the more we keep our taste buds addicted to sweet, the more challenging it's going to feel. So again, those balanced meals help minimize those cravings, both in terms of the taste buds and the physiology that creates those cravings. Moving in the direction of quality food over restriction. So like you were saying before, we were told for a bajillion years, eat less, move more. Actually, I heard someone today talking about, I say it all the time, the body does not work on calories in, calories out. And a bunch of people on the internet, she was saying that, a bunch of people were coming after her. And she was like, let me explain. So calories in, calories out is essentially physics and like, I can't remember if it's thermodynamics or whatever it is. But the whole point is that is that scenario in a closed system. The human body is not a closed system. So while in theory, calories in, calories out would make sense, it doesn't in the reality of the human body. That is not how the human body works. And I love that she sort of brought it back to the physics piece of it. And so if we can think about that here to recognize that that was old information, that is not how the human body works. And if we're experiencing all of that food noise, it is proof and demonstration that that's not working for us. Go back to, oh goodness, it was January of 2025. We did a nutrition nugget on, I can't think of the name of the study in this moment, but it was essentially like what happens with extreme starvation. And it's a lot of food noise,
Well, that I think is the biggest part of it. If you're constantly depriving yourself of eating, and especially, and this is where I like to say there are calories and then there are calories. There are nutrient-dense calories, and then there are empty calories. So if your calories are nutrient-dense, because our bodies actually run on nutrients.
Correct.
Don't run on chemicals. It doesn't run on medicine. It runs on nutrients. That's how the body works. If you're fueling your body with the nutrient-dense calories and you are eating every 3 to 4 hours while you are awake, that food noise will go away because you're not depriving your body of anything. You're good. And you're going to be hungry when you're supposed to and full when you're supposed to. And you're just going to have the right amount of fuel.
Yep. 1,000%. So the nutrition piece is one. Movement. Moving your body regularly.
Yeah. It helps a lot.
Helps so much. Think about that dopamine piece. Think about the body needing energy. Think about the stress, right? That movement hits so many of those categories. That movement also helps on the physiological piece, even of hunger and satiety. We are more sensitive to those hormones when we are more active. And then our stress. And again, we have a million episodes on stress. Managing stress is its own can of worms, but recognizing we need sleep, we need relaxation, we need hobbies, we need non-food related activities, so that we can have this kind of decompression. This also reminds me, we did an episode, I can't remember if it's 7 or 8, but the types of rest. I think it was 7 types of rest. Really interesting. And that could play into this too, to think about and get creative about some of these other things. The sleep piece is also really important because not only is sleep that physiological repair, that detoxification, when we don't sleep, we are less sensitive to leptin, the hormone that tells us to stop eating. We have greater hunger when we don't sleep well because our body is fighting the desire to sleep. So it's saying, I need more energy. So it's increasing those energy needs. It's creating more of those sugar cravings because the body is saying, I need fuel. The brain is saying, I need fuel. I am tired. And so again, like that lack of sleep is so connected to the blood sugar, the leptin, the ghrelin, and all of the hormones.
And the stress.
and the stress, all of it.
All of it.
So it always comes back to these foundations of optimal health, these pillars of wellness. And when we can put things in every day that address all of those pieces, I promise the consistency of that will naturally minimize and eventually remove that food noise. That's why I say I kicked my food issues, because I don't have that anymore.
Yeah. No, I agree wholeheartedly, because I don't have those issues anymore either. And I used to. And I also found that if I was really either really watching what I was eating, or, I hate to use the word diet, but I used to diet. I don't ever diet anymore. I follow a healthy way of eating. But if I didn't have people around me that were supporting that, that became a whole nother issue. And that's a big stress issue. So when somebody keeps saying to you, oh, you can have a little bit of that, you can have a little, and I'm saying, I don't want it. And it's like I have a friend and I call her the food pusher.
Oh, yeah. The subtle saboteurs.
Oh my God, eat this, eat that. I don't want it. Now I don't say I don't want it. Now I say, oh, I don't eat that because it hurts my stomach. And the minute you say that, they leave you alone.
Yep.
If you're living with somebody who is not supportive of your healthier eating habits and your effort, it becomes very, very stressful. And now all of a sudden that food noise is getting louder and louder because you're trying to placate them and placate yourself, and nothing is working. And it's just a bad place.
Well, I think there's that, and the conversation we're having that others hear as we're attempting to manage our own. And so, to the bottom line of your point, the support of a coach, a therapist, a guide, a buddy, a friend, a colleague, somebody who is there to help. And we have an episode, How to Be a Wellness Ally, also, to talk about this, because it is so important. And we also potentially need to be clear with the people around us what we're really asking for them to do and what it means for them to be an ally. A lot of times that, oh, you can have it, they think is them being supportive, telling you in some implied way, you look great, you're doing great, you can have this thing. Or they want to justify their eating it, right? It's so loaded.
And they also, I think for some people, it makes them feel like you're depriving yourself. So you're not making yourself happy. No, I am not depriving myself. And of course and then they want to eat what they want to eat. Well, I'm not telling them not to eat what they want to eat. I might be a look on my face that is telling them that,
right.
Because I'm a little judgy. We all know that. But there's so many elements to the people who are around you, and how are you going to handle these things? And it becomes very difficult. But when you're really trying to settle all of this down, you then have to get very clear, like you said, with these people, and let them know this is not because I don't want to look like the skinny Twiggy model. That's not what this is about. This is about my health concerns.
And to that point, when the food noise crosses the line to the intrusive, to the feeling obsessive, even if it's not weight-related health, it is mental health, it is inner peace, it is joy. It is incredibly important that we address this piece of the conversation, because I think, and I want to talk about some other tools that help with the physiology, like supplements and things and GLP-1s, but we can have this idea that if the weight is fixed, that this will go away.
Yes. And that is not the answer. You have to get to that healthy weight. And that's what people are not understanding. There is a skinny weight that you think you want to be at, and then there is your actual healthy weight that where your body really wants to be and will perform the best because it's nourished and it's nutritioned.
Right.
And then therefore you will be able to do the things you want to do, even though maybe in your mind's eye, you're not quite where you want to be.
Yes. And one of the the Minnesota starvation experiment, that was the one. One of the other things that we talked about with that episode and the episode we did about how your fat cells have memory with the researcher from
my fat cells
the
remember
Netherlands.
everything.
Right. It turns out that how we go about getting to that healthful weight is critically important. And I'm saying this slowly for a reason. How we get there is critically important, and how we get there is also part of this food noise. So for me, the other things that made a tremendous difference were some supplements. So a high-quality multivitamin, filling in those gaps where our nutrition falls short, making sure that we're getting those micronutrients that the body needs, because as you so beautifully said, the body runs on nutrients. And there's one formula in particular that we work with that also has the vitamin D in there at a therapeutic dose, that also has chromium in there for blood sugar balance and some extra tools. So a high quality multivitamin. Another one that was tremendous for me has white kidney bean extract and Lepticor. And that one really works on the leptin ghrelin balance, helping make sure that we don't just automatically turn carbohydrates into fat, that we actually use the food we're eating as fuel. We've talked a million times about herbs for stress, right?
My favorite.
Yeah. It's so helpful. And specifically adaptogenic herbs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You want to say something on that?
Oh, I love my adaptogenic herbs. I was one of those people that people always said, oh, you're always so calm. You're never stressed. And that was my outward appearance. My insides were like so stressed, but I didn't even realize it. Because I got used to it. It was my normal way of life. And I started like hearing more and more and more about these adaptogenic herbs that basically, what do? They help your body adapt to certain stressors. We're all different. We all have different triggers and we all have different stressors. But these herbs really do help your body adapt. And I thought, maybe I should just give it a try. Maybe. And I did. And it was a game changer. It was a life changer.
I felt like it helped me maintain my equanimity. Like my mood wasn't on this roller coaster, you know, and for a lot of my clients who have trouble with the sleep piece, where they lay down and their mind goes and they can't turn that off, these before bed can be tremendously helpful. And what I love about them too is that on days that are particularly stressful, take more, you know, like that we can play with that a little bit and be present in our day to say, here's what my body is telling me I need, and I can respond to that.
Exactly.
A couple other ones that I love. The active ingredient is African mango seed extract. African mango seed extract works on a hormone called adiponectin. So we didn't talk about this but in the physiology, but adiponectin is inversely related to fat cells. So the more fat cells we have, the less adiponectin. The more adiponectin, the fewer fat cells. Adiponectin helps with satiety and motility. So when we feel like we don't have the energy to kind of move more and get the things done, adiponectin can be incredibly helpful with that. And then a newer one that I've been working with and taking myself for the last couple years now is, we call it thin, but it is a GLP-1 activator. So for people who are curious about GLP-1 pharmaceuticals, maybe want to experience what that might be like, but are concerned about what might happen when they go off of them or having to be on a pharmaceutical for the rest of their life or the side effects or whatever it is, this is a tremendous alternative. With all of my clients, I have not had personally a single adverse reaction or side effect. Essentially, the active ingredient is called aramin. What aramin does is it helps extend the life of our own GLP-1 because your body makes it, especially when we're eating protein, fiber, quality fat.
Right. And I'm glad you said that because I think a lot of people, GLP-1 has become this buzzword that people don't really even know what it is. And it's actually something our bodies create in our stomachs and our bodies. But as we age, like everything else, our bodies stop making less of it. This does not add a synthetic GLP-1. This adds a product or a nutrient that actually helps us make our own. And I have been taking it too. And, a lot of people have said, oh, yeah, I lost that extra 10 pounds. I lost that. Blah, blah. I haven't lost a pound on it, but my body has changed.
Yes, I'm exactly the same.
Yes, things have tightened up. It's definitely doing something.
Yes.
So, and I've had no adverse reaction, just like you said.
Yeah, same. And speaking with the naturopath who formulated this particular one, especially for women who are in that perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, you may even see greater benefit taking it twice a day. And it does support that feeling of I'm not ravenous. I can handle whatever is coming at me. My food and fuel do last me longer. I am recognizing more when I am satisfied with the food that I have eaten and I maybe don't need to keep eating something or whatever it is. So I will say to everybody, I know we just talked around a lot of ingredients. There's also a tremendous amount of research to these to make sure that you are getting the clinically evidenced dose, that it is the clinically evidenced ingredient and all of those pieces. So what I will do, I will put the links to these that I work with in the episode notes. So I'll put them together so it's one link that will take you to all of them and you can see them. Feel free. I'll add it into our Happy Healthy Hub. Our Hub members will get 10% off. So we'll throw that into the Hub this week too. So Donna, final thought to wrap this up on quieting the food noise, helping the brain stop talking about food?
I think my final thought on it is, of course, if this is an issue that you really are dealing with and you feel so overwhelmed of where do I start? How do I even begin? Jenn is your perfect coach, number one.
You're kind. Thank you.
Yes. Well, only because we coach the same thing and
yes.
we know how it works. But it's to also recognize that you are not alone. This is happening to so many people. And there's so many different reasons for it. Stop watching all these influencers who can say, add these 3 ingredients together and it'll just melt off of you. I'm like, what are these people talking about? But stop listening to everybody else. Listen to you, listen to your body, get the right amount of sleep, and number one, first of all, take as much processed food out of your diet. Start cooking again. Start having fun in the kitchen because whole foods, fruits, vegetables, your good fats, your protein, this is really what the body was meant to have in it as fuel. And the more you do this and follow a really good, wholesome way of eating, those food noises are just going to go away because you're not fighting with yourself anymore over it. Relax. Get on those adaptogens. They will help you.
Yeah. I think my final thought is that the food noise, that constant chatter, is another way that our body is communicating with us that it needs something.
Mm-hmm.
And our job is to help give it what it needs, and it will stop screaming at you. So if we can look at it as a communication instead of a flaw, a problem, a moral failure, then we can start to say, all right, I'm going to address this, body. We're on the same team.
And your body is yours. It is the only thing you can really have any control over, but it is yours. And you have to be very present along with the education and the things you're hearing from other people to say, okay, I'm going to take control now.
Yes. And part of that might look like finding support, finding someone who can help you decipher some of those things, figure out how to get those things into every day and all of that so that you are addressing it.
But you got to do it.
Yeah. When you're ready. Awesome. All right, friends. On Friday, in this week's bite-sized bonus episode Nutrition Nugget, we're talking about Pure Genius protein shots. Have you seen these, Donna? So Tracy M submitted this one through the website. By the way, website is asaladwithasideofries.com. On the contact page, you can send an email with your nutrition nugget or episode idea. Anyway, that's what Tracy did. She said, "Hi, I'm curious your thoughts on the Pure Genius protein shots. Is it a marketing hype by Mel Robbins or a good option?" Well, Tracy, I'm thrilled that you asked, and we're going to look at them together on Friday in this week's bite-sized bonus episode. So be sure wherever you're listening, click the plus sign or the follow button, and then your app will alert you when the Nutrition Nugget goes live. As always, everybody, I'm your host and health coach, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I am at Jenn Trepeck, JennTrepeck. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. Pick your platform, send a message. Hearing from you is the highlight of my day. It is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your coach. Donna, thanks again for joining us this week.
Thank you, Jen. This was so much fun. And I know I coerced you into this, but thank you so, so much. I had a blast.
Oh, good. Well, you're going to have to come back.
I would love to.
All right. And of course, friends, if you are not already a member, I invite you to the Happy Healthy Hub. You'll go to asaladwithasideofries.com/membership. This shows your support for this podcast, this community, and your health. On top of access to the community board where we can interact, ask and answer questions, and more, you're getting discounts, curated content, this week's recipe for the crunchy Thai kale salad, and 10% off those supplements that I mentioned for support around food noise. So until next week, remember, food noise, that running dialogue in your mind, can quiet down. It can even go away completely when we work with our bodies instead of against them. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.